Hi everyone, how are you doing? So it's Professor Heath here. I told you that I'd post a Prezi construction video, I guess you'd say. So this is kind of a tutorial in the general basics of how I use Prezi in class for our lectures and things of that nature, and how you might be able to use it for not only this class but other classes and presentations you do in the future. So to start, this is the address, the web address, obviously at the top that you would go to access the Prezi website. I have a couple of other web screens up here. This one's just what I'm recording with right now, so we're not really concerned with that, although it is a cool site. The other two sites that I have open, I'll talk about in a little while, are cooltext.com, which is a really nice site if you're trying to make some funky, weird types of texts. And I won't spend too much time on it in this video, but just ask me about it in class, and I can show you or tell you, or you can even experiment. That's cool too. And then the other one is pretty common. It's just google.com. And this is where you do your image searches for your site. So that being said, I'm going to go back to the Prezi site. You'll notice in the top right corner you can see login or get started. If you're brand new to the software, you want to click get started. For people that have a Prezi account or somebody like me who uses it often, you want to click login. Mine will take me directly to my spot because I use it often, as I said. For you, you might need to put in a username and a password, or an email more specifically and a password, but it gets you to the same page. So that being said, you'll see that I was messing around with it today, but if I go down, you can see my class Prezis, and there's pages and pages worth of these things. They give you a lot of space actually, especially if you're in education. You can use an add-on so that you can really have almost unlimited space, which is really cool. You can see that I have 75 Prezis and they're huge files, so kind of a nice option that you can make so many. What we want to be interested in is this new Prezi. So I'm going to click on this. It's going to take a second to load. And that brings me to this screen. So I can start with a template that Prezi offers. I find most of them to be pretty boring. It's up to you though, if you'd like to use these or not. They work perfectly fine. I like to start blank Prezi. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is my user screen. So when I look at this user screen, this is kind of like a canvas, and this tool on the right here, the home screen, the plus and the minus magnifying glasses, are going to help me zoom in and zoom out. So I can zoom out by hitting the minus, I can zoom in by the plus, and they give me what's called a frame to start. I'll talk a little bit more about frames in a couple of minutes, but this is the general way that your Prezi is going to know where you want to go on the page and how. So I'm going to delete this frame because that's what I tend to do in the beginning. And I'm also going to tend to zoom way out. And that's going to allow it so later on when I make this Prezi, I can zoom way in. So I'm going to zoom out almost as far as they let me. And then what I usually do is I click a Google image and I use that as my background. So I don't know, let's pretend I want to do a Despicable Me background. Alright, great. Some of the things I want to think about when I use my background: I don't want too many contrasting colors because that will make it difficult for my user to see text. I also want to make sure that I pick a large picture, so you can see when I kind of rest over it. This is a 300 by 300 picture, really cool. It would make a nice Prezi, but 300 by 300 is kind of small. So one of the things I can do on Google Images, I can hit Search Tools. I can make it larger. That's not it, size. I want to make it larger, and I usually go larger than, and I just click one of the bigger options. So I'll do 1024. Alright. And then these will be the pictures that I might choose. So, let's say I want to do vector with the, I don't know what that is, something stuck on his butt. So I'm going to right click it. I'm going to save my image. Okay. I get my regular save image screen. I'm just going to type in something that I know. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Okay, so vector's now saved to my desktop. And then what I'm going to do is go back to my Prezi, and I can click this Insert tab. When I hit here, I get a drop-down menu, and this is how I insert things like videos or images, background music. You can see, and you can mess around with this on your own time. I don't want to take forever to talk about this, but I'm going to click on Image, and then I can select the file. It gives me some default images. When I select my file, I can look down my desktop here, and it's in alphabetical order, I should be able to find vector. Yep, there it is. So I'll double click that, and the picture will be imported to my Prezi. If I don't like the fact that it's long like this, I can crop it. So maybe I cut out a little bit to make it a little bit more of a square shape. Click off to the side. There we go. Alright, cool. Now when I click in the corner, I can blow it up. And it doesn't get really pixely or like little boxes because I made a large picture, or I chose a large picture in the first place. So that helps. So this is going to be my home screen. Oh, zoom me in a little bit. Sometimes the program will do that. So here we go. So here's my starting image. What I'll usually do in that instance is my path. So now I've got a starting image. My path is where I click and how my Prezi bounces around. So when I hit path, it gives me in here, kind of like a slideshow in PowerPoint, I can click my first stop. So I want my first stop to be my home screen. So I'm going to click on it, and that makes my path, my first stop, my home stop, will be this picture. Alright, so that's where I'm starting. So I'm going to click done because I want to get out of the path option. I don't want to stay there for too long. So there's my vector. Now I'm going to use some logo because I could just click on this screen and type words like vector Prezi, and then I click off of it, and yeah, that could be a title. That's kind of boring to me though, so I'm not going to use that. I'm going to delete that, and then I'm going to use this site that I told you I brought up before, Cool Text. So I'll click on that. It's cooltext.com. It's got all these different texts I can use, basically regular format. Oh, told you my computer sucks. Let's say that I want to use this one. Okay, here's Keen. This is what would pop up if your computer's not infected with viruses like mine. So here it is. I can click on different fonts in this. So the way I would change my font is I just click on that, and I'm closing things because every time I seem to do something I get a virus. But when I click on this, this is a whole list of fonts that I can use. Let's say that I want to use one that's common to TV. Let's say that I decide I want to use a Harry Potter font. I'll click use. It'll load for a second, and now I get these Harry Potter letters, which are kind of cool. So I'm going to put in Vector Prezi. That's my name. Alright, there you go. I'm going to treat this not as text now, but as an image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click it. And similar to what I did with the vector image on Google Images, I'm going to save image as. I'll label it something I can identify later, like vector text. And again, I'll save it to my desktop. So every time you see those letters in class, they're actually pictures. They're not fonts, if that makes any sense. So I'm back to my Prezi now. I just click back over. And I'll click Select Files. This takes me back to my desktop. So again, similar to what I did with vector before, I'm going to scroll down. Vector text. There it is. Double click it. And just like it did with the original picture, now I've got a picture, but it's actually a text picture, if that makes sense. So there you go. So it's much more interesting and engaging for my viewer than if I was to just click on this and write, oh, Prezi. The difference between the two. So it just adds a little something. If I feel like I'm zoomed in and I can't see my whole picture, I can always click the negative arrow here, and that can bring me out a little bit more. So I'm going to delete this. I don't want that anymore. So if this was my original screen, now we can kind of add some more things. So I told you before, and I kind of briefly mentioned, that frames are the way that your Prezi bounces around. Frames are also what allow for animation. So your frame option is here. I have different types of frames. What I tend to use in class, what you see when we do class lectures, is invisible, because I like it when my viewer doesn't know where they're going next. I don't want you to see the outline. The other frames show an outline, pretty much no matter what. That's just not my style. Maybe you mess around with it. So when I look at invisible frames, I'm going to click on this dotted line box. I'm going to drag it over to my picture. I'll drop it on. And right now, just for the sake of seeing it, I have a blue box around. But I can make this bigger and smaller. The bigger it is, the further I can zoom in once I have a picture in there. The smaller it is, the further in my Prezi will zoom, and the less options I'll have when I get there. So it depends really on what you want. If you wanted, for instance, to zoom into this card, or whatever this is, this barcode on its butt, you could make a frame here but I don't know how much further you'd be able to zoom in once you got there. You'll notice that I clicked off the box, and now I can't really see it, but it is on my path, so that will help take me there. It's still difficult to see because it's invisible, so I might zoom out a step, and then I can highlight it, click it, do whatever I want to do. Alright, so I'm going to delete this frame, and then if I want to go back to my home screen quickly, I can just hit home, and it takes me there. I'm going to take my frame, I'm just going to drop it over here somewhere. Alright, let's say that I want something this size. So now, I have a zoom to frame option. I can click the hand and move it around, or I can just drag the outside of the box. I can make my frame bigger and smaller. I can zoom into it, or make it bigger, excuse me, make it smaller. I'm going to zoom to frame, so I'm going to work here. I'll go negative, and then again, I use full text to label my tops. You don't have to anyway. Let's say I want to stick with the same, and I want to do a slide on Gru, the good guy. I'm going to save it again. So I just save it as Gru, saves to my desktop. I'll go back to my Prezi, hit select file, and then I'll scroll down until I find the Gru text file. There it is. Double click. It loads in. Now you can see it's kind of pixelated because it's a little bigger. So I'm going to make it smaller so you can't really tell the pixels. It's a little bit of a small title, but whatever. I'll move it. There it is. So now maybe I want a picture of Gru in there. Alright, I'll go to the Despicable Me thing, or I'll go to the Google images, excuse me. Now, same type of thing. I'll search for a Google image of Gru. I want one that necessarily won't take up the whole page. Here you go. That's actually huge, but we'll use it anyway. It might take a second to load up. See that it's loading by this little bar down here, still running. So it happens when you have a large picture like that. You can get one to load a little more quickly. See, these are all huge pictures, which means they'll have a lot of detail, but they might take an extra second or two to load. There it is. So I'm going to right click it, I'll save it. I'll save it as Gru. It'll probably tell me, oh no it didn't, alright, I'll shut up. I'll click back to my Prezi, select files, find Gru, it's right above my text, it's the JPEG, the different images. Now because it's so big it's going to ask me to resize it. I'm cool with that. It really does nothing. The Prezi kind of takes care of it for me. There you go. So I've got Gru with a white background. There is a way that I can remove a white background, but I'm already running almost out of time, so I'm not going to do that on this video. I'll click to the side, and there's Gru. Now, I could do a couple of different things with this. I could type text over here. So, this is Gru. I could also, if I wanted to get kind of fancy with it, type text, and I could put it on the picture and make it smaller, make it larger. So there you go. I could also make the picture of Gru the entire screen, and now it's covering something, so I'm going to kind of right click on it and I can send it behind. I don't want to send it that far back though. Try again. I can send it backward, and then the other words pop up above it, right? Put it inside my frame, and then I can move the words around accordingly. Mess with what I want to do, right? So now, if I was to present, I could click on the present arrow. It will take me all the way back to the beginning. And that's what I have. So my Prezi's here. I've got the vector name. Here's the other vector name, excuse me. There's my original screen. If I click the right arrow, or I push the right arrow on my computer keyboard, it will take me to frame 2. And there we are. So I have 2 frames. One is Gru, one is vector. Alright, I'm going to hit the escape to get me back to home. And then I'm back to my edit circle. I'll add one more video to show you animations and how to add videos. And then you should be able to play with it for yourself and really, get whatever you want out of it. So we'll stop the video here, and then I'll continue on part 2.